Hello and thank you for tuning into News Today, where we break down the day's top stories with precision and clarity. Without delay, take a look at the headlines first. Supreme Court passed judgment to strengthen Juvenile Justice Act 2015. After 2 decades, Earth is struck by the G5 level geomagnetic storm. Sudden dust storm envelops Delhi. ISRO successfully conducts hot testing of 3D printed rocket engine. Ultra-processed food consumption linked to risk of early death. Armored sailfin catfish has spread to 60% of water bodies of Eastern Ghats, says CCMB scientist study. In our very first news, in a significant judgment, the Supreme Court has passed directives to strengthen the provisions of the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015. The apex court's ruling came in the case of child in conflict with law through his mother versus the state of Karnataka. Judgment deals specifically with the Act's provision for preliminary assessment of children in conflict with law in cases of heinous offences. Let's learn some facts about the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015. The JJ Act consolidates laws relating to children in conflict with law, defined as those below 18 years alleged to have committed an offence, as well as children in need of care and protection. The Act mandates setting up juvenile justice boards in every district to deal with cases involving children in conflict with the law. For heinous offences alleged to have been committed by a child above 16 years of age, the Act requires the Juvenile Justice Board to conduct a preliminary assessment to evaluate the child's mental and physical capacity to commit such a crime. Based on this assessment, a children's court may then decide whether the child should be tried as an adult or not. Now let's take a closer look at the key highlights of the recent judgment to strengthen the provisions of Juvenile Justice Act. In this judgment, the Supreme Court clarified that any appeal against a preliminary assessment order of the Juvenile Justice Board would need to be filed before the Children's Court, wherever available, and not regular sessions court. The court has also prescribed a 30-day time limit for preferring such appeals. Significantly, the apex court ruled that the 3-month time period prescribed in the Act for completion of the preliminary assessment is not mandatory but merely directory in nature. This gives the juvenile justice boards more flexibility in conducting these assessments. The Supreme Court's directives aim to streamline the process and ensure effective implementation of the Juvenile Justice Act's provisions, particularly in dealing with serious offences committed by children close to attaining adulthood. Consistent application of these guidelines is expected to strengthen the juvenile justice system across the country. In our next news, after a hiatus of 2 decades since the infamous Halloween storms of 2003, Earth has been struck by a powerful G5 level geomagnetic storm, the highest classification for such space weather events. This extreme storm was triggered by multiple coronal mass ejections or CMEs directed towards our planet from the Sun. Let's first understand more about geomagnetic storms. Geomagnetic storms are disturbances in Earth's magnetosphere or magnetic field caused by the interaction of charged particles from the Sun. Depending on their intensity, they are classified from G1, considered minor, all the way up to the powerful G5 category. The primary drivers behind the most severe geomagnetic storms are coronal mass ejections. These are large expulsions of plasma and magnetic fields from the Sun's outer atmosphere or corona. CMEs typically originate around the sunspot groups, which are cooler, highly magnetized areas on the solar surface. Once ejected, they take between 1 to 3 days to reach the Earth. Another phenomena that can trigger geomagnetic activity are solar flares, intense bursts of radiation released by the Sun due to magnetic energy associated with sunspots. The solar flares are the largest explosive events in our solar system, lasting minutes to hours, and their emissions travel at the speed of light, reaching Earth in just 8 minutes. Geomagnetic storms have huge potential impacts on our system. Let's take a quick glance at them. GPS and navigation systems may experience failures, disrupting transportation and logistics. Power grids are at risk of potential damage, which could lead to widespread outages. Aircraft flying over polar regions could lose shortwave radio communication, compromising safety. The orbits of satellites might be disturbed, affecting services like telecommunications and weather monitoring. Moreover, intense auroras sparked by the charged particles could be visible over much of the Earth, offering a spectacular but a concerning sight as a consequence of this powerful space weather event. In conclusion, with this historic G5 storm now impacting our planet, scientists warn of potential disruptions to power grids, satellite communications, and other technologies vulnerable to such severe space weather. In the next news, Delhi was hit by a sudden and intense dust storm accompanied by strong winds and light rain. This freak weather event was the result of a combination of factors: an active western disturbance, easterly winds, and soaring temperatures over the region that led to the formation of connective clouds and strong winds. These events created a towering wall of dust that quickly enveloped the national capital. Let's begin by understanding what are dust storms. Dust storms are created when turbulent winds lift up particles of dust and sand to great heights. They are often associated with thunderstorms characterized by rain and lightning activity. While relatively common in arid and semi-arid regions like North Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Central Asia and North India, the intensity of this particular storm took many by surprise. Northwest India does experience periodic connective dust storms locally known as Andhi, with Rajasthan being the most prone, followed by Haryana, Punjab, and western Uttar Pradesh. However, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the severity and frequency of such dust storms are expected to rise due to global temperature increases. Furthermore, apart from reducing visibility drastically and disrupting air travel, dust storms can have serious health impacts by triggering respiratory issues. The dust particles can also act as carriers for infectious diseases and destroy agricultural crops. On a larger scale, they can transport nutrients across oceans, affecting marine biomass production. Now take a quick glance at the western disturbances that played a key role. They originate in the Mediterranean region and travel eastward towards the Indian subcontinent and are known to cause non-monsoonal rain in the northwestern parts of the country. Another point to be noted here is of the easterlies. These trade winds blow from east to west near the equator. They begin as warm, moist air from the equator, rises in the atmosphere, and cooler air closer to the poles sinks, intensifying the storm. Moving on to the next news. In a significant milestone for India's space program, the Indian Space Research Organisation, or ISRO, has successfully conducted hot testing of a liquid rocket engine manufactured through additive manufacturing or 3D printing technology. The PS-4 engine, which powers the fourth stage of ISRO's Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, was developed by the Space Agency's Liquid Propulsion Systems Center. The 3D printed engine resulted in substantial savings in raw material usage and production time. Additive manufacturing, defined as constructing a three-dimensional object from a digital model by adding material layer by layer, is the opposite of traditional subtractive manufacturing methods, in which an object is created by cutting away at a solid block of material. A range of materials like thermoplastics, metals, ceramics, and even biomaterials can be used in this process. This pioneering technology has found applications across diverse sectors. In healthcare, it enables custom implants, tumor models, and surgical instruments. The aerospace and defense industries utilize it for components like airframes, landing gears, and drones. Other areas benefiting from 3D printing include electronics, RFID devices, construction, consumer goods, and automotive manufacturing. Let's also learn about the key advantages of the AM technology. It includes lower inventory needs, reduced production time, ability to create complex custom designs, minimal material wastage, and the potential to fabricate objects with functionally graded materials. However, challenges persist. The initial investment in equipment is substantial. Also, in terms of the technical challenges, the production speeds can be slow, quality control remains a concern, and there is a lack of universal standards and skilled workforce. Other challenges include workforce shortage, lack of material availability, design integration. Recognizing the immense potential of additive manufacturing technology, the Indian government has taken proactive steps to promote its development and adoption. In 2022, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology released the National Strategy for Additive Manufacturing to provide a comprehensive roadmap. Additionally, the National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology in Aurangabad established a dedicated 3D printing lab to further research and skill development in this domain. More recently, in 2023, MeitY collaborated with the government of Telangana to set up the National Center for Additive Manufacturing, a dedicated hub to drive innovation, commercialization, and widespread implementation of 3D printing technologies across various sectors. These initiatives underscored the government's commitment to positioning India as a global leader in this transformative manufacturing approach. With this successful testing, ISRO has demonstrated India's prowess in leveraging cutting-edge manufacturing for advancing its space capabilities. Moving on to the next news, a massive 30-year-long study conducted in the United States has found a significant association between consuming ultra-processed foods and an increased risk of premature death. The study revealed that certain types of ultra-processed foods like ready-to-eat meat, sugary drinks, dairy desserts, and processed breakfast items were especially linked to this higher mortality risk. However, the researchers were quick to clarify that not all ultra-processed foods should be universally restricted. Their findings primarily support limiting the consumption of certain categories for long-term health benefits. To assess overall dietary quality, the study used the Alternative Healthy Eating Index 2010 or AHEI score developed by Harvard's School of Public Health. This index assigns ratings to different foods and nutrients based on their predictive value for chronic diseases. Let's understand this further by learning about ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods, or UPFs, are a category of products that have undergone extensive industrial processing and contain significant amounts of additives like preservatives, artificial flavors, and emulsifiers. They are often high in fat, sugar, and salt, but low in essential vitamins, protein, and fiber. Increased consumption of UPFs has been linked to various health issues including hypertension, kidney disease, obesity, fatty liver, metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular diseases. Worryingly, the UPF food sector in India witnessed a staggering 13.4% compounded annual growth rate between 2011 and 2021 and is expected to grow further according to the World Health Organization. Furthermore, curbing UPF consumption in India faces challenges like changing lifestyles, lack of clear definitions for high-fat salt-sugar foods, and absence of comprehensive marketing regulations. However, government has taken several initiatives in this direction. Like revised 2024 dietary guidelines by Indian Council of Medical Research, the Eat Right India campaign by Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, FSSAI also limits trans fatty acids in food products to 2% by mass of the total oils and fats. Another, aerated beverages in India are taxed at 28% GST and additionally 12% compensation cess. Additionally, high-fat sugar salt foods in India are taxed at a 12% GST rate. Alongside that, Kerala had also introduced a fat tax in 2016. In the next news, armored sailfin catfish has spread to 60% of water bodies of Eastern Ghats, says Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology scientists study. ASC, Rakashi or devilfish, was introduced in India for its unique appearance and its ability to clean algal growth in tanks and aquaria. However, in this concerning development, we are now witnessing its exponential growth. Originally native to South America and belonging to the largest catfish family, scientists have employed the environmental DNA or eDNA approach to map the spread of this invasive species. eDNA refers to organismal DNA released into aquatic or terrestrial environments from cellular material shed by organisms through skin, excrement, and other means. Unlike conventional methods, the eDNA approach is reliable, accurate, and can be conducted at a low cost. To begin with, let's learn a few more facts about the invasive species. As per the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, amended in 2022, invasive species are non-native species whose introduction or spread poses a threat to wildlife or its habitat. To understand further, the threats posed by invasive species are multifaceted. Their presence can lead to changes in food chains, disturbances in ecological balances, and competition with native species for resources. They can put human health, food security, and livelihoods at risk. Alarmingly, 1 in 10 species on the IUCN Red List are threatened by invasive species. Furthermore, invasive species have resulted in a staggering loss of at least $1.288 trillion from 1970 to 2017, highlighting the severe economic impact they can have. Delving further, here are some initiatives taken to control invasive species. First and foremost, Convention on Biological Diversity has adopted guidance on prevention, introduction, and mitigation of impacts of alien species. Secondly, the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, launched under CBD, has 23 targets, including 50% reduction of invasive species by 2030. Also, there exists Global Invasive Species Database, which is managed by the IUCN Species Survival Commission Invasive Species Specialist Group, ISSG. The Global Register of Introduced and Invasive Species is an ISSG-led initiative which further contributes in limiting the spread. Another, the Globalast Partnerships Program, a project by the Global Environment Facility, United Nations Development Programme and International Maritime Organization, helps to foster cooperation and ballast water management. Lastly, the Western Indian Ocean Network on Invasive Species and the Caribbean Invasive Alien Species Network are hosted by the Indian Ocean Commission, an intergovernmental organization which India is not a member of. In today's personality news, we will discuss Asaf Ali. The birth anniversary of Asaf Ali was celebrated recently. He was a lawyer, freedom fighter, first ambassador of independent India to the US, and more. Let's take a quick look at his key contributions. He was one of the founding members of Home Rule League at Delhi and actively participated in the non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, individual satyagraha, and Quit India movement, and more. He defended Shahid Bhagat Singh and Badukeshwar Dutt in Central Assembly bomb case 1929. He was elected to Central Legislative Assembly in 1935 as a member of Muslim National Party. He depicted values of patriotism, leadership, rationality, and more. As we conclude today's main news, let's take a look at some quick updates. Ruskin Bond was awarded the Sahitya Akademi Fellowship. Fellowship is the highest honor conferred by Academy on a writer. It is reserved for the immortals of literature. Researchers found altered food habits in C. elegans worms after they ate a disease-causing bacteria that produces sRNA. sRNA is a group of primarily non-coding RNA and generally contains 20 to 200 nucleotides. Researchers from Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and Banaras Hindu University found that 12% of India's eligible children received no dose of measles vaccine. Measles is an acute viral respiratory illness, and its symptoms include high fever, cough, coryza, and conjunctivitis and rash. Kaziranga National Park collected the highest revenue in its 50-year history. It was declared as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1985. Scientists have found mass sea anemone bleaching off Agati Island, Lakshadweep. Sea anemones are predatory animals, and most species are found in coastal tropical waters. Like corals, sea anemones establish symbiotic relationships with green algae. 7th edition of Exercise Shakti, a joint military exercise between India and France, started in Meghalaya. Ministry of Power held a meeting to review a study conducted by IIT Delhi on the effect of installing FGD technology on sulfur dioxide emissions. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change made it mandatory for all coal-based TPP to install FGD system. 10th and 12th standard students from CISCE board can now obtain verified mark sheets through DigiLocker platform. Launched in 2015, it is a flagship initiative of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology under Digital India program. Before we sign off, let's challenge your understanding in today's installment of Test Your Knowledge. We appreciate your company. We hope you found this episode of News Today engaging. For the solutions to the quiz and to access the PDF version, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.